The conversation everyone's avoiding. Until now. It's been everywhere. Headlines, talk shows, social media feeds. The elephant in the room can't be ignored anymore, and frankly, it's time we talked about it. I don't want to put you on the spot, the interviewer begins, his tone hovering between curiosity and caution. But come on. We've all been wondering, was it real? I mean, was it a girl? How did you really feel when I landed the MD? Were you even surprised? Upset? Anything? A pause. Then a measured breath. Listen, comes the calm, grounded response. It was good. Honestly, it was good. And I mean that. He leans back, the weight of honesty anchoring his words. Obviously, this kind of thing is important to some people, I get it. But when they offered it to me, I said, I don't need that. I'm solid, comfortable in my own skin. I thanked them, genuinely, and I told them, give it to Ross. And they did. There's no resentment, no envy, just quiet confidence. And you know what? He adds with a half smile. I'm happy they did. I mean it. It's a fantastic thing. I can't believe it, honestly. It's wild. But I'm proud, really proud. Especially because you're my buddy. That makes it mean more. The room softens with the truth of that statement. There's history between these two. A friendship that predates fame, before the lights and premieres. You know, he continues, eyes flashing with nostalgia, when I was a kid, one of my all-time favorite movies was The French Connection. Gene Hackman was iconic in that. And this character? It reminds me of that era. Gritty, unpredictable. It's got that raw nerve, a kind of unfiltered intensity. He leans in, animated now. It's not exactly a homage to Heat, but it's in that lane. Only grittier. There's some Training Day energy in there. You can feel it in the tension. The usual suspects, too, with all the twists and turns. You never quite know where it's going. Even in the last few minutes, it keeps you guessing. That's what I love. The craftsmanship, the unpredictability. He smiles again, this time with satisfaction. I always wanted to make a film like this, one that keeps the audience leaning forward, not back. But just as he's starting to bask in the pride of the project, a familiar smirk appears across the table. You're not even listening, he says, laughing. I can see it. You're already plotting your next joke. You've got that look, like you're just waiting for me to pause so you can crucify me with some sarcastic one-liner. The friend grins, guilty as charged. And I know what you're gonna say, he adds, almost challenging. Say the line. Go on. I love it when you do. Analysis. This wasn't just an interview. It was a window into the complicated terrain of male friendship in Hollywood, where rivalry, ego, and authenticity constantly compete for space. What could have been an awkward moment of jealousy turned into something else entirely. Mutual respect, wrapped in the kind of camaraderie only years of shared dreams can build. Here, under the lights and questions, two artists showed us the rarest thing in the industry. Genuine support. No rehearsed answers, no empty praise, just truth. And in an age where headlines often prioritize scandal over sincerity, this moment felt refreshingly real. A hero in the gray, when good guys wear the mask of outlaws. When you say, the life we are, it really is, he reflects, his voice lowering as if touching on something weighty. That's one of the beautiful contradictions of this character. There's a pause, a breath. Then he continues. He's the good guy, yeah. He's the hero, in theory. He's trying to take down the bad guys. But he's not clean. He's not simple. A lot of times you look at him and think, wait, is he the criminal? And honestly, sometimes even he doesn't know which direction he's headed. There's an undeniable tension there, a deliberate duality. The kind of character who walks a razor-thin line between justice and destruction. But when he says it, the actor adds, his eyes narrowing with conviction, you believe him? You really believe him? Because this guy? He's a silverback, a battlefield warrior, the kind that's been through fire and doesn't flinch anymore. This isn't a cliché action hero. This is a man forged by war, by loyalty, by code. He walks into chaos with calm precision, not out of bravado, but because that's who he's become. One element is, yeah, they're an elite unit within the LA Sheriff's Department, but they operate, let's just say, with relative impunity, he confesses with a half grin. They've got their own tattoos, their own call signs. It's a tribe, a brotherhood, and they're going up against a crew that's just as smart, just as brutal, a sophisticated, high-stakes criminal organization. And in that clash, something raw is exposed. It puts everyone to the test, not just physically, but mentally, morally. It's not about the money, not really. These guys, most of them are ex-military, they're mission-driven. It's about the operation. It's about being the best. He leans forward, animated now. They're not motivated by greed. It's about execution, precision, outwitting the enemy, winning. That's the fuel. That's the addiction. He draws a line in the air between two forces. And what's fascinating, he says, is how intertwined they become. It's almost symbiotic, like two wolves circling each other, mirroring each other, learning from each other, even respecting each other in a twisted way. And all of that builds toward the showdown. And what a showdown it is. You've got 50 Cent in there, he says, his tone shifting playfully. And I'm like, yo, Curtis. Or should I say City? Eddie? Which one are you today? He laughs. I've called him both, 50 or Curtis, depends on the day. But whatever name he's going by, man, he brings it. He doesn't just show up, he commits. And you feel it. You feel it when you're in a scene with him. Behind the scene. Brotherhood and brutality. What the audience sees on screen, the guns, the grit, the pressure cooker intensity, is only part of the story. What lies underneath is a psychological dance, a portrait of men trained to survive war, now navigating the moral fog of peace. This isn't a movie that wraps itself up in neat heroism. It forces you to question what heroism even looks like. Who wears the white hat? Who decides what justice means? In today's Hollywood, where characters are often flattened into symbols, this role stands out as something more, a flawed, layered, deeply human soldier of chaos. And the actor behind him knows exactly what that means. I've always been drawn to that space, he says, the space where right and wrong blur, where you don't just act, you wrestle with loyalty, with identity, with rage. Behind the tough guy act, and that near-fatal moment. He's a great guy, really, the actor says with genuine affection, referring to his co-star. I mean, sure, he's built like a tank and plays the tough guy on screen, but the truth is, he's got a really sweet nature. There's a brief chuckle. He's humble too, surprisingly so. People don't expect that from someone with his kind of presence. But yeah, he's been an absolute pleasure to work with. Then, with the timing of a seasoned showman, he grins and pivots. But enough about 50. Let's get back to the important stuff. Me. Laughter erupts in the room. He knows the rhythm of a good interview, knows when to give, when to pull the spotlight back. No, seriously, he teases. I hate talking about other people. You know that. If I were you, I'd only want to talk about me too. It's understandable. But beneath the bravado, there's a moment of sincerity. The conversation takes a turn to something far more personal and far more dangerous. I want to talk about the motorcycle accident, the host says gently. He nods. Yeah, that was a rough one. The day everything could have ended. It was a bad crash, he admits. I mean, really bad. He pauses, no longer the jokester, now the survivor. I was riding hard, not recklessly but fast. And you know, when you're going even just over 30 miles an hour, and I think I was doing maybe 35, and you hit something as unforgiving as a car, that's fast, that's violent. People don't realize. He looks down briefly, as if reliving it. I remember thinking, this might be it. I mean, it went slow, like painfully slow. As I was flying through the air, everything slowed down. I saw the car, I saw my trajectory, and I thought, if I don't land right, I'm dead, or I'm waking up in a wheelchair, never walking again. That kind of fear leaves a mark. And yeah, that all went through my head. Not just fear, clarity. You really do see your life in that split second. And it's not like in the movies. There's no orchestral score, just silence, just you and the moment. He leans back. I hit the ground hard. But somehow, I bounced up. Adrenaline, I guess. I jumped to my feet, and the first thing that hit me was, okay, I'm alive. That was the only thought that mattered at first. But the damage was done. My feet were torn up. The soles of my shoes were gone, literally ripped off. I looked down and thought, oh, this is going to be bad, and it was. He gives a half smile, the kind that only comes from someone who's seen the edge and lived to tell the story. The lesson in the wreckage. Crashes like that don't just break bones. They crack open perspectives. I don't take anything for granted anymore, he says. Not that I ever really did. But after that, every day is borrowed time. Every scene I get to shoot, every time I ride again, that's a gift. He looks up, eyes sharp. And that's what made this film even more special to me. I didn't just show up to set. I brought something with me. That brush with mortality, that realness. You don't fake that kind of intensity. You earn it. Reflection. From stardom to survival. In Hollywood, tough guys are often manufactured. Gym bodies, smoldering stares, rehearsed grit. But some earn the title in blood and asphalt. This actor didn't just play the part. He lived it. And when he brings that energy to the screen, it's not just acting, it's resurrection. Every role becomes a form of testimony. I'm still here. I've been through hell, and I'm still standing. And in that truth, there's power. The kind of power audiences don't just watch, but feel. Blood, sacrifice, and the weight of a role. My pants were ripped clean open, he says, eyes focused, voice even. And the blood, it was pouring down my legs. He pauses, not for effect, but to let the memory settle. I remember standing there trying to assess everything. My body was in shock, adrenaline pumping. And all I could think was, okay, so that happened. I was in pain, obviously. But more than anything, I was thinking about the movie I was supposed to start filming soon. There's a brief smirk, not of humor, but disbelief. I told myself, yeah, that's probably not happening. I knew I wouldn't be walking normally for a while, let alone running, fighting, or doing stunts. But part of me still thought, maybe I can push through. You get used to that mindset in this business. The job that pushes you to the edge. You do start reevaluating, he says, his tone shifting toward something more thoughtful. The accident definitely made me think, but it wasn't just that. It's what I do for a living. He gestures subtly, a nod to the physicality of his career. Take Den of Thieves, for example. I put on 25 pounds for that role. 25 pounds doesn't sound like much until you're the one carrying it, day in and day out, and that was just one transformation. He shakes his head slowly. I've done that 6 times now, gained the weight, trained like a beast, lost it all, and then done it again. It wrecks your system. And while you're doing it, you're working 12 to 14-hour days. Long hours, high stress, extreme physical demand, and that's the job. And it adds up. I already had injuries from Den. Then came Keepers, where we were literally scaling mountains. My body hadn't even recovered from that when the motorcycle accident happened. And that's when it hit me. He leans forward. I had another movie lined up. I was supposed to roll straight into it. And I remember thinking, what am I doing? The cost of transformation and the price of not slowing down. Hollywood loves the image of the committed actor, the one who physically transforms, who risks everything for the role. But behind the screen, there's a human body breaking down under the pressure. "This job takes everything from you," he says. And the thing is, no one really sees that. They see the finished product. They see the transformation. But they don't see the nights you can't sleep because your joints are screaming, or the days you can't eat because your metabolism's wrecked. And yet, he kept going. Role after role. Punishing transformation after punishing transformation. I didn't give myself time to heal. I didn't give myself time to process anything. I was always thinking about the next gig. But after the crash, something shifted. He doesn't say it lightly. That kind of clarity doesn't come from a single moment. It builds, quietly, urgently, until it demands to be faced. What comes next? You start asking the big questions, he says. Not just about your career, but about you, your identity, your limits, what you're willing to sacrifice and what you're not. And those questions linger. Is this sustainable? Is it worth it? And if I keep doing this, what's left of me in 10 years? For an actor known for playing characters at war with the world, it's a rare moment of internal reckoning, the kind audiences don't often get to see. But here's the thing, he says with a slow nod. Even with all of that, the pain, the surgeries, the trauma, I still love what I do. I love the storytelling. I love the physical challenge. I love the grind. I just know now I have to do it smarter. A warrior, rethinking the battlefield. It's a strange twist, that a man who's made a career playing indestructible forces of nature would come to understand his own mortality through something as simple and as brutal as a split-second crash. But in that moment, with blood pouring, legs torn, and future uncertain, the real man behind the action hero emerged. Not the character, not the mask, just a human being, daring to slow down, daring to evolve. And that's perhaps the most courageous transformation of all. Choosing to breathe again. I think I actually want to take some time off, he says, the words lingering in the air with surprising weight. It's not a dramatic declaration. It's calm, earnest, a quiet pivot from the relentless machine of fame and filming. Not because I don't love what I do, he adds quickly, but because I want to wake up in the morning without that constant pressure in the back of my head. You know, that ticking clock. That feeling of, this movie's coming up, I've got to train, I've got to prep, I've got to be ready to go. He mimics the grind, the cycle. You roll out of bed, joints aching, mind racing, already halfway into some fictional world you haven't even shot yet. It's exhausting. And I love the adventure. I do. But I want to keep chasing it in a healthier way. He leans back, almost amused at the realization. I think I'm finally ready to find a new rhythm, the lighter side of a near-death experience. And then, as if sensing the gravity of the moment, he pivots, smiling faintly. On the lighter side of things, he says, if there is a lighter side to a motorcycle crash, a pause, a smirk. I'll tell you this, there's a moment when you tumble. You don't know which way is up. The world's spinning, your body's bouncing off concrete, and when you finally stop, it's dead silent. You just check in with yourself. He mimics the surreal clarity of the moment. And then you go, okay, I'm still here. Let's see if I can stand. He chuckles, a dry, knowing laugh. And then comes the part no one tells you about, the helmet. The person who's trying to help, they've got to take it off, gently. Because by that point, you've realized you've just survived something you probably shouldn't have. And all it takes is one wrong move to change that. He raises an eyebrow. That's a very good point, actually. I didn't even think about it at the time. I just knew I'd taken a massive tumble. I looked back, saw my bike way over there, the car even farther. And then all these people on the side of the road just staring. A moment that changed everything. What struck him wasn't just the distance he'd flown, it was the stillness that followed. I remember locking eyes with someone in the crowd, just a stranger, and the look on their face, shock, disbelief, that's when it hit me. This was real. This wasn't a scene from a movie. There were no second takes. He sighs, and for a second, the performer fades. All that remains is the man. You don't walk away from something like that without changing a little. You just don't. And maybe that's the point. In a career built on physical transformation, impossible stunts, and high-stakes drama, it took one unscripted crash to remind him of the power of stillness, of presence, of pause. "I want to live," he says finally. "Not just survive, not just perform, but live." And yeah, that might mean less red carpets, fewer 4 a.m. call times, but it'll mean more mornings where I wake up and just breathe. And that feels like something worth chasing. Closing note: the shift from invincible to intentional. There comes a time in every warrior's life, on screen or off, when the armor gets heavy, when the adrenaline isn't enough, when survival isn't the goal anymore, but purpose is. This isn't a story about slowing down. It's about choosing the path ahead, with eyes wide open, with battle scars earned, and with the rarest thing in Hollywood: clarity. Because sometimes the real hero isn't the one who runs into fire. It's the one who finally knows when to stop. After the impact, compassion amid the chaos. I heard someone say, "You're going to get a short ride," he recalls, his voice steady, almost distant, as if replaying the scene in slow motion. And yeah, that was it. The ambulance was already on its way. But what happened next wasn't what most people would expect. Not for a guy who'd just been thrown from a motorcycle and lay bleeding in the street. "Honestly," he says, "I started feeling bad. Not for me. I mean, yeah, I was in pain, my feet were shredded, blood pouring, shoes gone. But for her." He's referring to the woman involved in the crash. She was standing just off to the side, surrounded by people, and I could tell she was panicking, frozen. I looked over and saw the guilt on her face, clear as day. He pauses, shaking his head slightly. "Look, now, I can admit I'm a little angry about it, because let's be honest, it was a stupid move. Trying to make a U-turn right in front of me on a busy street without checking properly? That could have killed me." His jaw tightens for a second. But then, just as quickly, his expression softens. But in that moment, I didn't feel anger. I just felt bad for her. She wasn't trying to hurt anyone. She was just careless and scared. Humanity, even when you're broken. The instinct to forgive, or at least to empathize, in the middle of such trauma says something about who he really is, beneath the hardened exterior. "They were prepping me for the ambulance," he continues. "I remember sitting there with my shoes completely off, my feet basically destroyed, and someone had wrapped them in these little cloth booties or pads. I don't even know what they were. They looked like puppy slippers or something." He lets out a breath, a half laugh that's equal parts disbelief and gratitude. It was surreal. There I was, in the middle of a major intersection, a crowd around me, my body screaming. And I'm looking down at my feet thinking, well, at least I've got something soft to ride in. The unexpected moments that define you. In a town obsessed with control, with image, timing, precision, this was the kind of raw, unscripted moment that strips everything away. And it revealed something rare. Because when the cameras are off and the body is broken, the truth emerges. Compassion doesn't need a cue. Empathy doesn't need direction. And humanity, even in the ugliest of moments, can still show up, barefoot and bleeding, in the middle of the street. "I didn't blame her," he says again, almost to remind himself. "I could have. Maybe I should have. But I didn't. That doesn't mean I wasn't hurt. That doesn't mean it didn't change me. But in that moment, I just saw another human being, terrified, trembling, and I knew this was going to be one of those moments I never forget. The real recovery healing isn't just about surgery, stitches, or rehab. It's about reconciling the chaos, making peace with what happened and what could have. For this actor, whose life has been defined by big roles, bigger stunts, and high-octane performances, the motorcycle crash stripped everything down to its essence. "I could have died," he says plainly. "I should have been furious. But instead, I felt something else." And maybe that's what survival really means. Not just getting up, but growing up. Letting grace lead, even when it hurts. Grace in the wreckage. "My legs were all swollen, scraped up, bleeding," he says, the memory vivid. "But I still got up, limped over to her, and said, 'Come here.'" The woman, stunned, unsure whether to step forward or flee, watched him approach, expecting anger, blame, maybe worse. Instead, he opened his arms. "And I gave her a hug," he says softly. Right there in the middle of it all. That hug wasn't for show. It wasn't rehearsed. It came from the core of someone who's seen enough pain to know the difference between a villain and a mistake. "I told her, 'You made a mistake, but no one deserves this. No one.'" He paused, letting those words land. "I've made mistakes too. Plenty. That doesn't mean I don't deserve grace. That's what I tried to give her." The unexpected turn, and the selfie. She was shaking. She apologized, eyes wide with disbelief that he wasn't yelling, suing, or collapsing in rage. She said, "I didn't see you. I didn't mean to. I panicked." And then, in perhaps the most bizarre twist of the day, she added something that left him stunned. "She looked at me," he recalls, a crooked smile forming, and said, "I had no idea how lucky I was going to get today." At first, he wasn't sure what she meant. Maybe she was grateful the crash hadn't been fatal. Maybe she was just emotionally overloaded. But then she said it, out loud, in front of the crowd, the sirens, the blood. "Do you think I could maybe get a selfie?" He lets out a laugh. The kind that's equal parts disbelief and weary amusement. "Yeah," he nods. "She actually said that. The irony of fame, even when you're bleeding. That's the thing about being a public figure. Even in your most vulnerable, broken moments, you're still a face, a name, a story someone wants to post." "I didn't say no," he says. "I just looked at her like, 'Are you serious right now?'" But he gets it. As strange as it was, he doesn't hold it against her. When you live in the spotlight long enough, people stop seeing the real you. They see the character, the movie star, the guy from that show or that film, not the bleeding man standing in front of them, just lucky to be alive. What the moment taught him. That day, in the middle of trauma and absurdity, he saw the full spectrum of humanity: panic, guilt, compassion, and a touch of surreal celebrity culture. And through it all, he never lost his grounding. "Look," he says, "I wasn't going to take a selfie covered in blood with my feet wrapped in puppy booties. But I also wasn't going to scream at someone who was clearly overwhelmed. That's not who I am." He shakes his head, eyes clear. "If I can walk away from something like that and still offer someone grace, then maybe I'm doing okay. Maybe I'm healing, in more ways than one." Final note: a life reframed. In the end, the motorcycle crash didn't just bruise his body. It cracked open a perspective that had long been clouded by the next role, the next script, the next transformation. Now he's not chasing the next big thing. He's chasing balance. Less noise, more presence, less speed, more meaning. Because sometimes it takes flying off a motorcycle to realize how precious it is to stand still, to hold space for others even when you're the one bleeding, and to choose grace even when the world hands you chaos.